I'm one of the, probably, if not the only one of the few people that will be on this podcast that can actually pay listeners money.
Yeah.
Everyone else wants something from you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to give you cash. I can make that happen.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Startup Junkies podcast. My name is Daniel Koonce, and I'm here today with my co-host, Jeff Amerine. Jeff, how are we doing today?
Great.
It is our pleasure to introduce the chairman and co-founder of Field Agent, Rick West. Rick, thank you for joining us today.
Man, Daniel, thank you for having me here. I just was looking forward to coming back, and so thank you for being gracious to invite me back.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back. We kind of like to, as he says, start off with our X-Men Genesis Wolverine origin story. Mm-hmm. Can you kind of tell us how you got to where you are today and give us your journey a little bit?
Yeah, like many people that are jumping into some form of an entrepreneurial, journey, very few people jump into it when they're 12 or 13. So you look at kind of your background. I grew up in Appalachia, and so if you're a news junkie right now or a politician, you're going to see this guy called J.D. Vance that wrote Hillbilly Elegy.
Yeah,
those are my people.
Really?
So I'm probably one of the few hillbillies from a holler in Kentucky that you're going to have here. And what I found growing up is that the ingenuity was always there. You were always tinkering, figuring out how to do something. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like you really did much off the shelf or anything. Now, whether it was sports or doing something on your home, you were constantly in that, well, we could do this, we could fix it, we can make it better. And I grew up in an environment of just getting things done. And so my path as an entrepreneur started out in childhood, that is getting stuff done. And then I was blessed enough to go to the University of Kentucky.
Yeah.
But also
You used to have a good basketball program.
I tell you this, other than my wife and I and John Tyson, we were the only people that liked Coach Cal until he said he was coming here, that everyone's coach's best friend. I got a legacy here. I'm a 15-year Coach Cal guy, injected in my veins. I was bleeding blue, bleeding Coach Cal. So in that time in Kentucky, not really understanding what entrepreneurship was, I knew I needed a job, and so I got a job with Procter & Gamble. So P&G recruited me out of school, which is crazy in many ways. And in that corporate time that I had there, I had the opportunity for an international assignment, and that was my first entrepreneurial experience that really impacted processes, people, things, companies, as opposed to just little things I could do on myself. And so while my journey started with me understanding what that meant, I needed the job, learned a ton from P&G. But in my case, I went to Asia for 3 years, and it's like the wild, wild west, from Japan, China, Korea, all the way down to New Zealand. And every place you were going to, it was like you're this entrepreneur, and it just lit a fire. And then I took that and that conversation, a good friend of mine, Henry Ho, who's been on the show. We had been friends for 20 some years, and he was here and said, Rick, why don't we do something together? We'd always talked about starting something. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, what are we going to do? He said, well, we're going to figure this out, but we're going to take what P&G does and we're going to give that to the masses. So our first entrepreneurial engagement was to take this 20 years of know-how at P&G, the international experience, and to come here and say, how can we take 1,200 vendor teams? The top 50 are fine, but the other 1,150 need what P&G does. And so we were entrepreneurs for 10, 12 years doing that. And then Field Agent started, which is a whole nother story in the tech side of entrepreneurship. Kind of pre-iPhone entrepreneurs and then post-iPhone entrepreneurs. So that's a long-winded way to say how I got to where I am today.
What year did you start Field Agent?
Field Agent was in 2010.
Okay, very cool.
It's a 14-year overnight success story.
Yeah. And we met, right? I can remember being in some of your initial meetings with the founders. You were rolling it out and some of the interesting aspects of how you were going to use the crowd to be able to do some of that field work that's expensive to do by third-party merchandisers and whatnot. And what a journey. Venture backed. And you're at a transition now. Talk about what's coming next.
We are. We've made it through bootstrapping Series A, and we just recently had a Series B. So that's great to bring those dollars into, while we're a global company, into this area. Just had a fantastic acquisition of a company that's called Shelfgram, and so that's our largest acquisition to date, which was tied to the Series B. 5 Ounce Capital has been backing the entire thing. Fantastic, private equity guys from a partner standpoint. So fantastic there. But in that transition and bringing that money in, I went on a little bit of a different journey. So I've been, running the company as CEO now for about 14 years. And we started the Series B acquisition conversation in around November, December of last year. It took us about 6 months to work through this acquisition because we were acquiring someone that we were a partner with. So it was very friendly. We weren't worried about 5 other people coming in. And so we had plenty of time. And I knew it was going to be just a dramatic change for the company, not a pivot. But as I look at the rails for our company were going to go a little bit broader. And so because of that, it was going to feel like a startup all over again. And then I had gone through a couple of health issues that we can talk about a little bit later. And I just went to the private equity groups and listen, I'm not the guy to take it to the next level. I simply, for health reasons, I don't have the stamina and the thing that's going to be required to lose sleep, handle the stress. We just acquired a company in France. I'd been to France 3 times in a year, the jet lag, all the stuff associated with it. I said, it's time for new leadership to take this thing forward. And we had a great conversation of what that looked like. And I said, hey, chairman of the board, want to stay involved. I'm still owner of the company. I'm vested, but we need to bring someone in. So we spent 6 months, Jeff, really navigating through what it would look like to bring in another CEO. And again, we can spend a few minutes on that later, but they had an executive in residence program, and Ty Kasperbauer was in residence there. We spent some time with him. It made sense. And next thing you know, 3-4 weeks ago, I stepped back from CEO. Ty came in, we acquired the company, and man, they are just kicking it. They're just killing it right now.
That's great.
And I'm the guy as the chairman of the board standing back saying, I'm glad you're killing it, but I'm not the day-to-day guy. So I'm in a totally different time and space in my life of not being the control guy.
How's that transition been though? After being the guy that's there's elements of adrenaline that you get used to, and just the rush associated with it. How's it been stepping back?
It's been good for me. I needed to reduce stress. I have some autoimmune things that are going on in my life, and autoimmune gets triggered by lack of sleep and too much stress. And so I know even good stress, I knew I needed to control it because the acquisition wasn't bad stress, but it's just not for the faint of heart. People think as an entrepreneur, it's great, entrepreneur, how cool this is. Like, yeah, but you're just on all the time.
All the time.
And a global company, you're in 65 countries, and you're just on all the time. And so for me, what I started to realize, 2 things. Number one, my wife's advice was, Kim said, Rick, just say no for 6 months. Can you just take 6 months out of your life and still spend time with people, but just can you say no? And then the second phase of that saying no is that when I do say yes, I'm transitioning from influence and control to just influence. And those are the words that I keep in front of me, because 2 months ago, I could come in and have influence on a subsidiary, a partner, an agency, the team, and then I'm still checking in, holding people accountable. What's going on? How are we going to lay this out? Now, I can come in with the same expertise, Jeff.
Sure.
But when I leave, I'm not following the KPIs, making sure it hit, following up. I just can walk away, and that's really difficult for a guy that is an Enneagram 8 control guy. I like that, and that's where my adrenaline comes in. So I'm having to learn to come in and influence for all the right ways, and be able to back out and totally be available.
Sure.
But not to be that guy that's paying it. And so it's difficult to watch the company go do. They've changed a few passwords on me. I don't have as much access as I used to. My fob still works to get in the building, which is
that's always a good thing.
And it still works and my email still works. But it is even the control of being responsible for something on LinkedIn, or I was always the marketing guy, and being responsible, realize I can't even get into Airtable anymore.
Yeah.
And my wife would say that's good.
Yeah.
Because you can still have influence on what's in Airtable, but you're not the guy saying, okay, where are we? What are we doing? And so that's been a really good transition. And I'm only 4 weeks in.
Right.
So I'm still
learning.
I'm still learning to kind of figure that thing out. So it's a great new phase for me, but the company is doing great. really excited for where things are going there.
What's the total head count now? How big is it to give people? Since you said 65,
we're still slightly under 100. If you look at FTEs,
right,
in that range, through COVID, a couple other things, we did kind of a riff. We had to work through
right size it a little bit. Yeah,
we need to right size. EBITDA became more important as you needed to stretch follow-on money that you'd like to have. EBITDA became important. So about a year ago, I always joke as an entrepreneur, we were bootstrap, EBITDA positive, and you take a Series A and you're losing money, which made no sense at all. But you needed to burn cash.
Sure.
And then we became EBITDA positive. We had another acquisition. We're burning cash again.
Yep.
And then now we have to be EBITDA positive. So that part's important. We did a right size with our company in France the same way. And the company we acquired here is primarily a acqui-hire plus technology. So it's really 5 people that we're bringing in. It's not a large organization, but the technology was important.
That's great.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well,
Daniel.
I was just going to kind of take a step back for a second, just for some of our viewers who might not know what it is Field Agent does. Can you explain that a little bit and maybe touch on what the recent acquisition has added to your company?
Sure. I'm one of the, probably, if not the only one of the few people that would be on this podcast that can actually pay listeners money.
Yeah.
Everyone else wants something from you. I'm here to give you cash. I can make that happen. So in the field agent world, we have 2 economies. We have the classic economy, which most people understand is someone hires us, gives us money to provide something. So that economy would be retailers. A client of ours would be a Walmart, a Walgreens, a Target, a Home Depot, a Heinz, Kraft Heinz, P&G, Unilever, coming to us asking for data. So we collect data really all over the globe, but we collect data and provide that to them. So that's one economy, and most people understand that B2B. Where we're a little bit unique, which is where we started out, Jeff, you're saying, gosh, how do you collect that data? We also have a B2C economy, which is somewhat unique, where everyday people download our app. And then by downloading it, we provide opportunities to them to do 3 facets of work that we pay them cash. So you'll never be the mayor of Field Agent. You'll never get a badge. Pay you cold hard cash. And we collect information that our B2B guys want to have. And that information is quantitative in nature first. What is the price of something at a Whole Foods? Could you check all Whole Foods? Could you go into every Costco? Could you go into every Walmart or every Subway? Could you be in every McDonald's? Tell me prices and very quantitative things. The second facet is, instead of bringing me in, what if I had an 18 to 35-year-old female and I said, hey, we want to go to Ulta, and we're not only understanding pricing and displays of Ulta Beauty, what's happening in the store, but I now want your opinion, qualitative, on what you thought about the display. So now that metadata on the photo, here's the price, this is the display, I know exactly what it is. Now I'm getting qualitative data to say that this core consumer has a certain opinion, and that photo and that data becomes really, really impactful.
Yeah.
And then the third phase of that is kind of on the marketing arm, is that if you download our app, not only am I going to ask you quantitative and qualitative things, I'm going to say, hey, how would you like to buy that product and try that product? And I could pay you for your opinion. You could do a ratings and review. You could answer a survey question. So that's the third facet of what we do. We're an amazing sampling company and a ratings and review company, all with the same app and the same person over here. So you can imagine the B2B guys look at us and say, wait a minute, you can give me truth, you can give me opinion, and you can help me market what I'm doing. Yeah. So that's the beauty of it laying out. And then the acquisition that we can talk a bit about is we had been doing machine learning, a little bit of AI for years, but they really, from a dashboard standpoint, are bringing pieces of data to life that has much more focus on the AI piece of it, that not only gives you classic understanding of data, but it gives you a virtual store walk and begins to answer questions for you. So it's bringing up stats, and it's letting you see out of stocks, and it lets you see new items that are popping up, as opposed to in the old days, a year ago, we would have done the same thing, but we would have analyzed it and provided a PDF or analyzed it, give you data. Now we give you a chance to see this really cool dashboard where you're getting near real-time data. And that's what Shelfgram did for us.
And that's going to, well, I'll make the assumption that that's going to increase the sort of non-linearity in your growth between adding analyst headcount.
Correct.
So that's, I mean, that builds to scale and increase in valuation
Right.
and value for the company.
Absolutely.
Allows you to do more with the same size crew, I would imagine, right?
Yeah. And then for us, if someone had been doing work with us, for decades, they would say, gosh, like any good researcher or data company, I've got 2 years of data or 3 years of data. I can't find it. Just go do it again. Well, now with Shelfgram coming in, we had this great longitudinal look that would say, case in point, you're with household cleaning. Everyone has household cleaning, including Lowe's, right? You've got something with you can spray. They say, gosh, there's a new item that came in. I wonder when the new item came in and what stores did they hit? And it would say, I'll tell you. So I literally, like an Apple time machine, I can go back in time and say, wait a minute, it started to populate in the Southeast. It started to they're like, oh my gosh, I missed it. I just didn't notice it started to trickle in. So that longitudinal piece, again, adds more impact to the data, which is a game changer for us, because now we're becoming kind of a center of truth.
Sure.
It's like you Google Earth and you can go back and look, wait a minute, that's when the parking lot changed. That's when that building changed. And we're saying, that's when the shelf changed. Like,
are you getting into the predictive side of it as well? I mean, you've got all the historical and that's the next thing, the predictive piece.
The next thing, predictive, and then we need our clients to help us think through that, because it's one thing to say, am I predicting how things are going to change? It's another thing to say, I don't care that you predicted that. We need our clients to say, these are things that are important.
That matter. Yeah.
These are things that matter. So an example of productivity, being something that's predictable would be, certain markets are like test markets, like a Phoenix, very insulated, hard to get in. But what if there's 3 or 4 other test markets that you're not even aware of, or people are kind of sneaking their things in? Well, what if I could predict you? So wait a minute, I'm telling you, over the last 6 months, the majority of new items are operating in Salt Lake City and El Paso. They're like, wow, I can now predict to you. I mean, so there's some things that we're beginning to see. We're a little bit ahead. I'm a little bit ahead of myself saying that's where we're going to go. But our clients are helping us saying, gosh, I see this. Can you do that?
Yeah.
And the answer is, with the data we have, absolutely. Absolutely.
The thing that's so interesting about this space is obviously we're in kind of the center of the universe for retail and CPG. Right. From an investment standpoint in emerging brands as a fund, we always found a bit like a bit of a challenge, because tastes change, consumer preference change. It's almost like trying to invest in a fashion company and hope that fashion stays a thing, or that they're ahead of the market. It strikes me that you get better and better on predictive, you're going to improve the investment thesis for those people that are trying to build new brands. Because right now it's kind of like, we don't know what the hell the consumer's going to do, really. I mean, where that's going to go. Is that where you see it going?
Well, it's part of that. So let's start out with something even more basic. You're exactly right. Something even more basic. In this mecca that we live in here, this retail mecca, most people that come in and do work say, wait a minute, I have near real-time data with Walmart within the minute. Okay, so hey, let's take that real-time data, and can you compare that to regional retailer in the Southeast? They're like, oh, I get quarterly data from them. Well, what do you mean? Oh, well, we don't have real. Well, what about this national? Well, okay, I get monthly data from them. Well, in today's retail world, you're already 30 days late if you're getting data in 30 days. So we're coming in and saying, I can't give you to the moment data, but what if I told you every Monday morning, I can tell you exactly what happened in every one of your core stores based on the trait you're looking for, and I can give you truth across 50, 100 retailers and give you truth. They're like, oh my goodness, that's a game changer, because I have no data right now other than a couple of phone calls and a text message. And we're like, no.
Yeah.
We're going to now give you, now we're not going to be a retail link type of thing.
Sure.
That's over here. And there are other companies that you can pull. Listen, IRI, Nielsen, there's other pieces of data. But for the other 95% of the population that's out there, listen, I'm just trying to do my job.
Yeah.
And I'm completely blind unless I'm flying around. I'm like, no. For this category of paper, I can tell you everything that's happened for the last 18 months. What do you want to know? And on Monday morning, I can tell you if it's changed again. And that blows people's minds.
That should give those brands a greater ability to avoid supply chain disruption.
Absolutely.
Too much stock in various places, out of, I mean, it should be all of that stuff that tends to cause
Right.
the whipsaw effect in the supply chain as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so part of it becomes, again, you get down to this, phantom inventory and out of stock, what's really causing it. I get that. People that have a ton of data understand that I might have an out of stock issue, but we've always been the people that provide the why.
Right. Makes
Because
sense.
the tag's gone. Okay. Or my sales have gone down. I understand why. It was because you've got 3 displays next to you that are 20 cents cheaper. They're like, oh, I didn't know those displays were up. So those were always projects, one-off events.
Sure.
Now we're coming in and say, hey, instead of coming to us when you're panicking,
Right.
Predictive, we're now going to tell you, you need to be aware from a supply chain standpoint that your core competitor's price has changed, displays have gone up, you're not going to ship what you think you're going to ship. Or your competitor is completely out of stock.
Right.
You're going to ship like crazy. And now you're going to be out of stock if you don't ship more in. And they're like, this is Rick. I can see. I mean, so we let you see. We're not down to the per hour, per minute. I mean, we're not that data company.
Right.
But for the other 95% of the things, we now can give you the advantage you need to have because we let you see. And we let you see longitudinally, and we let you see in near real time. So every week you get a fresh look. And it's no more like monthly, quarterly data. And I don't have to pull 3 reports to figure out what happened a year ago.
Sure.
I got it all right there for you.
How do you think, I mean, at one time we always thought it'd be interesting to kind of be predictive of what consumers are saying ahead of that moment of truth or that purchase, that shopping event. What happens with point of sale and then what they say afterwards. I mean, this, you think of data rank and Simply Measured and all the social listening stuff. How do you think about it? Does that still play a role? The tweets and the different stuff that's out there? How does that fit?
I think it does play a role. The question becomes, and let's look at I hate to say age. Now we'll get into Gen Z and millennial and how it plays out. Social listening on Facebook is completely different than can you even do social listening on
TikTok, right? Or Snap. Yeah.
I mean, so as those things evolve and you're shooting for that cutting edge consumer, you might still be able to do some of that work for the 35 to 55 year old, regardless of.
Sure.
But now I've got a new generation coming in saying, I only do Facebook so my mom can see the really cool things that I do once a month and keep her happy. Okay. And I do Instagram just for fun, but I never comment anymore.
Right.
But on TikTok and other things, it's not the most user-friendly comments. It's still more content creation to see things pushing at me.
Right.
So I think even those folks that are coming in saying social listening is important, I don't disagree, but I don't know how long of a life that has to live because it constantly changes.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Kind of going to pivot here. Great questions. You came and spoke at 1 Million Cups a couple weeks ago, didn't you?
Yeah.
You kind of talked about your Opine showroom. Is that being affected at all by this new acquisition?
No, it's the 3 quadrants we have. If you think of that quantitative, qualitative, that's really where Shelfgram comes in. On the marketing side of things for the ratings and reviews, that's where Opines came in. And it's a classic entrepreneur thing, right? So Walmart comes to us and says, we have a need. Now, our company is fairly rigid and our rails are really, really tight. 15 years ago, as the marketing entrepreneur, I'd say yes to anything. I'd always say yes.
Yeah.
But Walmart comes in and says, hey, we need help creating a venue for events for large pieces of furniture or items. Could you guys host that? I'm like, I'm going to go tell my private equity guys, we're going to go open up a spot in the mall. They're like, what? You're crazy. I was like, yeah, but Walmart's important. It's going to impact over here. So as an entrepreneur, I go to my wife, who's an entrepreneur, who had our original research company, Core 4 Research, that really helped birth Field Agent.
Right.
And I said, do I have a deal for you? You have one client, Field Agent. You don't deal with anyone else. They're going to bring furniture in. You're going to host people. The app is going to handle everything. And then furniture is going to go away. I said, we can spin this up. And so within 30 days, we created a company, created the logo, did the LLC, leased the location, had our first event, did the proof of concept, and haven't looked back.
All in a month.
All in a month. Because Kim and I are legit entrepreneurs.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
What was different in this, especially at my season of life, is that I'm not out looking for the idea, but we were wise enough to say, someone has a need. They're asking for something very specific. Again, I've always said you're only as good as you invoice and collect. And I had one person I had to invoice and collect from.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not out selling.
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't we spin this thing up? And it's been really, really fun. It's been a fun thing for us
Sure.
to do. And it's met a very specific need.
Mm-hmm.
And think about barrier to entry. Who else is going to spin one of those up?
Yeah.
If I had to go find the clients, do the marketing,
That's interesting.
it would never fund itself.
Yep.
But if you look at EBITDA for a business that I really just need to do the event
Yep.
and keep everybody happy and stage it, make it look inviting. Buyers walk in and is like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. We had a bicycle buyer come in and we did bikes in the parking lot. He's like, this is amazing. Look at all these people riding bikes and it worked and safety features. If it works out, we've got jewelry coming.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how do you do?
You've been at that a couple of years now?
It'll be a year in September.
That's right.
This year. But it's
That's
a
right.
classic entrepreneurial thing.
Saw the unmet need.
And we didn't spend a year thinking about it.
That's great.
And that's when you know you're an entrepreneur because you're like, I see it, I know it because I just knew it.
Yeah.
And we hit it and threw that thing up and here we are.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So who comes in to review these products?
It's everyday people. So the B2C part of the field agent, we simply do a push notification and said, hey, we've got 10 pieces of furniture at the Northwest Arkansas Mall. We'll pay you $8 per review. So in about 45 minutes to an hour, you can make $80 in an air-conditioned place reviewing 8 pieces of furniture.
That's not a bad deal.
That's better than a poke in the eye, right? Okay, that's
That-
really.
It seems
that's
like
a good deal right
If
there.
you start inviting college students, this will be
It's
another
crazy.
source of income for
Yeah,
them.
I think the most someone ever made
It's definitely
in a
some
day
good beer money.
was $120. And so
That's
what
not
happens
bad,
that
right?
is that we do 1 or 2 events per week.
Mhm.
I mean per month. It's nothing major. At one month we did 4, which is a lot. But it again, you can't take a patio set or a patio bar and ship that out to 50 people.
Right.
I mean, it's a small fortune.
Sure.
So why don't we ship in 1, bring 50 people in?
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. And they do one of 2 things to the furniture. We either gift it to a nonprofit. So we work with Potter's House. We work with a nonprofit called The
Sure.
Call that works with foster kids. We gave them a bunch of bedding and beds.
Awesome.
Or they ship it back. So they're like, wow, I can ship it one time and we can gift it to nonprofits. And so it's a really cool way
amazing.
for us to give back to the community that we're a part of. And so it's a really cool piece that we can put together because we saw a need. We had the skill set to understand it, and it was within the rails of what we could do. So really cool story.
So it sounds like I need to download this app then.
I'm shocked you don't have it. I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to judge.
I might
but
have to download it
if
right
you don't
after
want,
this.
if you don't want me to pay you, I understand it. But all your friends are making money.
It's not a bad deal.
You never spend any time in sales, can you tell?
No, none at all. None at all.
No, that's awesome. Well, you got any questions?
We're kind of at the point where we typically land the plane, and we've asked you this question a bunch of times before, but I'm not going to ask you for the rear view mirror one.
Okay.
Because you're
All
at
right.
an interesting point. And
Sure.
what does, for you, as you think about all the stuff you've done in a very an amazing career, what does winning look like over the next 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you feel about all that in the new role? And how are you going to spend your time?
So for me personally, I heard this in a sermon talking about how the gospel follows the path of relationships. I've used that in the business world to say is that I think significance, not success, significance follows the speed, path, and breadth of relationships. So if I do the right thing today, I take the relationships I have, continue to pour into those. Some are mentor, mentee. Okay. Some are just acquaintances. Some are like the 2 of us spending time.
Sure.
And if I really take the hours and the effort toward pouring back into those relationships, I think that I'm going to see success and significance happen through them. And it's through the relationships that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the influence, but influence doesn't matter if you don't have relationships. I've been blessed enough to know a bunch of people in the area.
Sure.
And I don't need anything back.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really trying to give back, but without the relationship, you're just a talking head.
Yep.
And so I think that's going to be the biggest change for me is the significance through breadth and depth of relationships. And if that's true, Jeff, 5 years from now, I will have impacted in a totally different circle of people within this community we live in.
I love that. Yeah. That transition from success to significance and what that means to you, and seeing success in other people, extremely gratifying. Good on you, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Good on you.
Thank you.
How can our listeners find out more about the new expanded field agent and everything else you're doing? What's the best way for them to connect?
Obviously, listen, if you're going to contact me, engage, LinkedIn I'm still a LinkedIn guy. But it's fieldagent.net. Really easy to find us. The company we acquired is called Shelfgram. Much like Instagram, it's SHELF.
And it'll keep that brand.
We'll keep that brand. Kind of that visual aspect about what we're doing. Now, again, I'm not the guy anymore, so maybe they're going to change the brand. I don't know. Never said,
subject to board approval.
Subject to board approval. What's going to happen there? But that's the easiest way. And if you're a vendor trying to understand, what we're doing, obviously, a ton of folks can help you out there. Sure. If you're on the B2C side, download the app.
Get the app.
So
he's trying to give you money.
Come on. Self-explanatory. And again, no badges, no widgets, no gift cards.
Just money.
Cold, hard cash is what we're doing. And that's the easiest way to find us.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on. Yeah. It's been a treat for me seeing you from inception to what you're doing now, and congrats on all of it.
Thank you.
Well done.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Well done.
It. Thank you.
Ecosystem builders, entrepreneurs, chambers of commerce, mayors, if you're interested in taking your economic future into your own hands, we've got a book that can help you. Creating Startup Junkies, Building Sustainable Venture Ecosystems in Unexpected Places is the guide. It's a little bit inspiration. It's a little bit toolkit. What it will allow you to do is take your economic future into your own hands and build a sustainable small business, innovation, and entrepreneurial ecosystem in your backyard. If you'd like to hear more, check out creatingstartupjunkies.com. The Startup Junkie podcast reaches over 100 countries and has had over 100,000 downloads. If you're interested in reaching some of the most motivated and engaged innovators and entrepreneurs on a worldwide basis, give us a shout.